Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on that East Coast. And we are looking at the Jazz hosting the Pacers on the second leg of back-to-back tonight. Small 3-game slate for you. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We do have a couple other videos up for you for each of these games. Some player props in there as well, just like Nate's article up on playpicks.com, which is there each weekday. Best bets and some player props on there for you as well. And if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as this 3-game slate for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Pacers are now up to plus 10, believe opened around plus 8.5, and people are continuing to bet them as they're on a back-to-back. Really, all 3 road teams on a back-to-back tonight. And looking at the other games, the Raptors are plus 2.5 at Philly on that back-to-back, total of 210. Heat plus 4 after going to overtime against the Lakers. They don't have to go anywhere because they're at the Clippers, total of 211 there. Indy's back to, we can debate, who has the roughest back-to-back here. I guess the Heat, because they went to overtime, but they don't have to go anywhere. But Indy, playing at Denver, which is 5,200 feet above sea level, and now plays at Utah, which is about 4,600 feet above sea level. And just a really tough place to play because both of those teams are really good and really good at home. Utah, after taking consecutive L's in Florida, came home and got some great home cooking, of course, beat up on the Hawks as they are wont to do. They're beating up on the Eastern Conference since last year, 22-13 against the spread, and 16-1 straight up against the Central Division, which is probably the worst division out. You got the Bucks in there. That's about it.
Yep.
And they're 30-15 against the spread at home in general since last season. 4-0 this straight up this season at home with a 13 net rating. I don't know how you can convince me to try to put money on the Pacers in this spot. I think they can surprise and cover with a sort of a backdoor cover situation, but you really look at the recent results for these teams. It's never been a close game. It was 3 blowouts for the Jazz since they became really good. Prior to that, when the Pacers were a little bit better, 3 blowouts for them. Average margin is 21 points per game in the last 7. So I would actually look at some unders for stars like Donovan Mitchell, who's been heating it up lately, but only averages 21 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in 7 career meetings with Indy, playing 31 minutes because none of those games have been close. So take the under on his 35.5 PRA and just hope that Utah pulls away, which so far when we've called that, it has come true this season.
Yeah, in terms of those blowouts for Utah, yeah, it's they've been covering. They're cover machines, and since last season, if you put money on Utah, especially at home, you're likely going to be able to cover because they do take things away. And then, as we know, by the time the second half comes around for the Pacers, legs might start to be a little bit weaker. One good thing for Indy is they do have Caris LeVert playing tonight, likely after sitting out the first leg of that back-to-back last night, probably assuming that they could handle a Joker-less and Michael Porter Jr.-less Denver Nuggets team. They didn't know that Bones Highland, big friend of the show who we talked about yesterday, was going to come out and hit a nice game winner as a rookie, build himself a nice first moment in the NBA, really, and maybe start to see some more time for him. But this is not a Bones Highland episode. This is a Pacers episode in Utah. The point I'm making here is a potential live betting opportunity in terms of if you do see the Pacers come out and you see Caris LeVert on that starting lineup with DeMontis and Malcolm Brogdon, who had kind of a weak game last night. Brogdon did really contributed to them losing. I think he'll come out a little bit with a lot more energy than he had yesterday. DeMontis, another 19 rebound game, 20 points. I think we know what we're going to get from him. The problem is now he's going down low against Rudy Gobert, right? And one of the best front court defensive front courts in the league. So what we can expect from him will be a little bit less. Caris LeVert, maybe, there's no props up right now for Indy as it's still a little bit in question whether or not he does play, although I do expect him to. But once you see those come out, you might consider some Caris LeVert props. He's been having a pretty good season on offense, but really keeping his props down. There was a couple games ago, he kept his points prop at about 14.5, which I would feel decent about. It is about Utah scoring more tonight than I think Indy, but my live betting angle would be if the Pacers come out with Caris LeVert, with more energy, they keep things close in the first and second quarters. If you can get that spread down below 10 points, maybe about 7 points, 7.5 points, I would still feel good about Utah coming out, maybe put a little bit on them winning that third quarter, as they've been wont to do this year so far as well. Pretty good third quarter team, where they, especially at home, where they come in and take over a bit. So that would be the live betting opportunity. But really, if you do like Utah a little bit here, I think you can tease them down. I do like the recent history between these teams showing how there's just blowout after blowout. Neither team playing well on the other team's floor, that's for sure. So I think that trend is likely to continue tonight. And at the end of the day, Utah teased down is something that I would consider as well. Maybe tease Utah, tease the Sixers, get a couple 4 points or so for each, and really feel pretty good about both of those games.
Yeah, it's an interesting night to use some teasers or parlays because of the situation where all three home teams have such a big advantage. And you can do something like a round robin where you bet all three and you cash in when 2 out of 3 of those work, because it's hard to imagine 2 out of 3 of these teams, failing to capitalize in this situation, especially Utah. I mean, we're pretty adamant that they're going to win. It's just a question of by how many points with the back and forth. And the blowout wins, I don't think that it's that there's not for nothing here, because Indy struggling to deny the paint over the last 2 seasons. Sabonis is not necessarily a rim protector. Miles Turner's been in and out of the lineup. And they're 24th in opponents' 3-point percentage. They're limiting attempts, but they're giving up quality attempts to the opposition. And Utah, as we know, produces a lot of quality 3-point attempts. They obviously turned a corner after shooting just 19%, that stunning loss in Orlando. And at home, they shoot nearly 40% from 3 since the start of last season. How they will be able to pull away, and then with their defense as well, allowing south of 102 points per game at home. I think that there will be a comfortable, it's somewhere between 8 and 12 points. So the spread is competitive, but again, I would try to pair other games. And if you can just straight tease them down to 6 and then get the person to pick them per se, that might be intriguing.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the thing that I would feel most comfortable about, if I can figure out a way to get good money on it, is Utah to win this game. When you look at what their record is straight up when they're home favorites since last season, they're 42-7 straight up when they are home favorites. So that is what we usually try to bank on, is Utah winning at home when they're playing a lesser foe. They don't usually let down specifically in Utah. So that's why the teasing, if you can get it a bit, if you get all 3 games and you tease them down to about 6 each, you get, in there, you can really get about plus 180 on your money still, even with that nice big tease. Maybe even, if you want to keep it to Indy, Utah, I'm just really trying to figure out the best way to get that Utah spread a little bit down. We know that they average, when they are home favorites, they do still win by an average of about 3.5 points a game. Obviously, that's not considered, that takes into consideration when they play really good teams that can keep it close. But there's plenty of blowouts in there. So 4 points for them to, an average of 4 points that they're winning each game when they're the favorite at home anyway. If I can get that down to about 6, tired Pacers team, I think by the time the fourth quarter comes around, we're all feeling really good about Utah pulling this out by 5 to 10 points, let's say. So getting it down around there is the key. Sometimes you just don't need to be too greedy. Just take a little bit lesser odds, take something that you feel really strongly about, and just rack up a couple units, even if it's not as much as you might have wanted with those parlays and multipliers. So either way, that's all the time we have for this one, Nate. Going to be a fun, small slate here on Thursday night, but I know we're going to enjoy each of these games. Pretty interesting way the schedule makers put this one together, making it really tough for those road teams. But we'll continue to find some value for you. Got a couple other videos up for each of these games, so make sure you check those out. Some props in there as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.